It was a deep, dark, and a long night. Silence enveloped the air as not a bird flapped its wings. And as soon as the moon slid behind the cloud, a colossal clamor shook the very earth as the massive army strode towards the fortress. Their eyes were blood red, their teeth were clenched. They had any weapon possible, and the only word in their mind was revenge. They had been wronged, and for this, they sought justice in the form of broken bones and bloody knuckles. They took the inhabitants by surprise and tore the stronghold brick by brick. Soon, terrible screams emerged from the battle scene, both of the hunter and the hunted. As the moon re-emerged, but the battle was over. The inhabitants had been vanquished, but there were no victors, as soon the hunters were punished by the gods. Phew! Does that not sound like the ending of a fiction novel fantasy? For me, it's always been like the second edition of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Two Towers, when 1,000,000 orcs march towards Helm's Deep, only to be repelled eventually and successfully by the Rohirrim and the Fellowship of the Ring. Witnessing the carnage in the campus of National Institute of Technology, NIT Calicut in Kerala on Wednesday, 19th October 2003, 19th March 2003, reminded one of nothing short of this, as over 200 second-year students turned their ire towards mere 80 final-year students to play a bloody game on the auspicious day of Holi. Dear Toastmasters and friends, before I explain to you the aftermath, let me delve into the reasons behind this bloody battle from my perspective. I am not usually very fond of playing Holi, but a guaranteed trip to the ladies' hostel to celebrate saw to it that I shed my garb and march along with my fellow friends. So there we were, 150 students dancing merrily in front of the ladies' hostel, as no self-respecting girl came out and danced with us. But a little while later, I heard a scream. Eee! I saw a hapless young girl returning from a pharmacy had landed right in front of the charged bulls. And boy, were they high on testosterone. The guys got a little carried away and teased her beyond the usual limits. The security got sniff of this, and soon they drove us from the hostel as the girl continued wailing, crying and screaming. Little did we realize that hell would soon break loose and the campus would witness its worst civil war in decades. But as we were returning back to our hostels from the ladies' hostel, realization dawned upon us that something was wrong, grossly wrong in the whole affair. We realized that the girl happened to be a final year local student and we were mere first and second year non-local students. And the moment we reached back, no sooner did we reach back and open our doors than did lungi-clad final year men came to our rooms, barging into the room saying, "Open the door!" And they were cursing in all sorts of Malayali language, "Poda patti!" We're like, oh boy, what was happening? They picked up anyone they thought to be a suspect and thrashed the daylight out of him over and over again. Among the many victims was my own roommate, a self-proclaimed leader of the North Indian cause. A little while later, we realized that as many as 30 of our batchmates had been thrashed, kicked by these so-called brothers of the girl. Now, let's understand, a few slaps by the seniors to an innocent would be acceptable. But this was like questioning the guy of his masculinity. Boy, people were charged. Revenge had to be sought. Battle plans were laid out to sneak and attack the final years in their own hostel, as even some of the senior North Indian students pledged their support for the sophomores. Now, let me clarify my stand in this whole matter. I was not beaten up. I claim that I did nothing to that ill-fated girl. For that matter, the battle cries didn't arouse me at all. I was in no question of my masculinity. So while a few of my batchmates were gearing up to smash some final year heads at night, a few of my friends and I sought a more peaceful way out. After all, the engineering degree was far more significant than pledging support to the obvious guilty party. But the most significant reason why he did not want to participate was because the day was as inauspicious as it could get. Holi, yes. One must not forget the fate of the attacker on a day like Holi. Why is Holi celebrated? Holika on the day of Holi attacks Prahlad and gets consumed herself. To more contemporary terms, Gabbar Singh attacks Ramgarh on Holi and gets driven away by Jai and Viru. Such was Holi. Unfortunately, the friends decided to go ahead and we were sure that calamity would strike very soon. The battle finally ensued and the results were worse than a badly managed Marxist decision. Heads were busted, limbs were broken, and the battle resulted into a big crater in the final year hostel hall. Threats were issued, suspension letters were given to people, and the entire second year batch was thrown out of campus for 2 full weeks. Folks, that's about it. That was the incident from REC Calicut. Oh, don't you believe it? Do you think this is that incredible story from one night at call center? Let me give you a disclaimer in which case. All incidents and characters in this narration are real. Any resemblance to characters, events or people is purely intentional. For that matter, one other interesting character from that same story is sitting right in this room. So that was, ladies and gentlemen, that one night at Battle Center. Thank you.